What can whistleblowers learn from Howard Wilkinson?
Well, in December of 2022, a new whistleblower reward law was passed covering money laundering and sanctions violations. Often they come hand in hand. Money laundering is when people hide their beneficial ownership. So if you take bribes, drugs, you evade your taxes, engage in corruption, you generally engage in money laundering. That's how you hide. You can't have a bank account with all this ill-gotten gain in it, in your name. Sanctions pretty much speaks for itself. If you want to do trade with a sanctioned company or take money from a sanctioned entity, you're going to engage in money laundering, but you're also going to violate sanctions rules. So this new law was passed to cover these two major transnational pillars of corruption. The money laundering component really has tremendous potential, which brings us to Howard Wilkinson. Wilkinson worked for the Danske Bank, and he uncovered the largest money laundering scheme ever. So you have to understand, this is one bank with a branch in Estonia. And they're taking money from Russia and former Soviet republics, bringing it through the Danske, through hiding beneficial ownership, because the Russians don't want to know who owns this money, and they're transferring it to Western banks in New York, including Bank of America, JP Morgan, and the Deutsche Bank, USA. The amount of this scandal was $230 billion, probably laundered over the period of about 15 years. But that begins to show you the size of money laundering worldwide, trillions of dollars, because all corrupt assets that are significant most likely will be laundered. And there's a lot of corruption. So this law has massive potential impact, and it follows the basic rules of the Dodd-Frank Act: anonymous and confidential reporting and mandatory rewards for qualified whistleblowers, 10 to 30%.
What should a whistleblower do if they are ignored by internal compliance?
Well, if a whistleblower is ignored by internal compliance, they should absolutely document it, because that's evidence of a breakdown of internal controls, which may unto itself be a regulatory violation, and it can also be evidence of a cover-up. So these are very helpful. So if the whistleblower then decides to go to the government or enter one of these reward programs, the fact that internal compliance did not adequately investigate and resolve their issues can become a reason not only for a larger reward, but for a government review of these mandatory or voluntary compliance programs that may, in fact, be violating the law. So to add just one last point to that, this is one of the benefits of going to a compliance program, even if you have doubts, because you can create a record of how the company didn't adequately deal with the issue. Or if they do adequately deal with the issue, great, everyone's a winner.
What is sanctions busting?
Well, sanctions busting is pretty much obvious. So the United States has sanctions against certain countries like Russia, Iran, North Korea. And then they have sanctions against individuals like many of the Russian oligarchs, companies that engage in wrongdoing. So once a company is sanctioned, or a person or a country, then there are restrictions in the financial interaction with that entity. Anything from buying goods and services to trade. So any violation of those sanctions now is covered. And then what I'd like to say, it's kind of like it compounds. A sanctions violation is most likely also a money laundering violation. And then you look at what the underlying transactions are. It could be a violation of the Bank Secrecy Act. It could be a securities violation, an improper trading. It could be hiding, there could be major tax issues because the person, if they're US, is going to probably not pay taxes or try to hide that income. So it's really at the beginning of what should be a really intensive analysis to cover all of the respective violations.